And we are back. Looking like we're live. What's up? What's up? Second day of the public training camp practice being open, for everyone to see. Lots of updates, gonna look at a lot of what we've been doing, going through Travis Wingfield's Twitter. He has all of the updates to see. Then some other things, maybe some videos where we can take a look at random other Dolphins things to discuss. Like I don't care too much for the top 100 for the Dolphins. Tua was just, I believe, 36 rank in the top 100, so getting some respect from his peers at least. That's kind of cool to see. And yeah, there's some videos, cool stuff to look at. Players that have been standing out, getting talked about in interviews, in the plays. Yeah. But starting with the Wingfield stuff, there are some, pads popping today, which is nice to hear. People getting involved, getting physical, always a nice sign when the pads come on. But first play of practice, he said completion from Tua to Craycraft, one of those subtle things about Tua is the many ball fakes, footwork, eye candy. He gives guys resets and still throws with accuracy. Zip. Obviously, you take a lot of the stuff with a grain of salt. It is training camp, and like the negatives and the positives. But I do think Wingfield brings up a good point here about Tua. This is one of the more subtle things about his game, and you see it all over the film, not even just during practice. It's littered over the film is his ability to work within the pocket after the ball fakes, the combined footwork, his eyes, with his whole body language, really manipulating, especially like second and third level defenders. I think that's one of his better traits, and then still being able to deliver an accurate ball after resetting and all that stuff. We just got to hear, he said he got to hear the first pad pop from Jordan Brooks, and boy, was it loud. Met Raheem in the A-gap with quite the collision. Love that. As I've talked about, big fan of Jordan Brooks. I've talked about it probably ad nauseum, so nice to see him getting downhill, being physical with the team. Exceptional breakdowns. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. I'll have a film breakdown out tomorrow, by the way. Still undecided on who the player is. I have a few in mind, but I'll definitely be getting those out before the preseason starts, and then we'll get into the preseason stuff. Let's see. Needham fits a Chris Brooks run, shuts down before it gets going, comes off pile with a flex for the crowd. He said Storm Duck made a couple of plays. I feel like this is the first time I've really heard anything about Duck. Makes a couple plays, one on the outlet valve where he tagged off at the line of scrimmage, another one winning the edge on a sprint from the back. He believes it was Chris Brooks. Couple players here that I feel like I'm hearing about for the first time, pretty much throughout the camps and even OTAs. Benito Jones stacks up a pile that gives Brooks a clean scrape / fill to cut down Achane for a short game. Benito off to a solid start. Brooks looks fired up to get the pads on. Yeah, so Brooks working with Benito Jones. Love seeing that physical presence out there. And then I think with Benito Jones, he has a good chance of making the roster. He's really outside of Tahir Tart. He's really the only nose one tech type that has that skill set to fill in. So, and speaking of that defensive tackle group that's kind of fighting for a roster spot, Neville Gallimore, he had a sack today, good upfield rush, that, where the man overset. That's at least what Wingfield was saying, then crossed face. He definitely has the athleticism. It's more of just playing with better instincts, good feel for the game, but he has really good that short area first step kind of burst type thing, and he can't catch people off guard with that. It's just playing with better balance, physicality, play strength that he would need to really play up to that potential of when he became he was a third round pick out of Dallas. I think Sealer was in the orange shirt today. He apparently had a nice pursuit play on a short throw to Achane. He said his effort is off the charts today. I would say it's the playlist, but he does this every day. I also heard his playlist was pretty funny all over the place. Let's say Waddle finds a soft spot over the middle, pick up a nice 18-yard gain from Tua. Pretty standard stuff right there. Another Gallimore mentioning with Wickett's swim to get his second sack working versus Keon Smith. Interesting. Going for some tackles here, it sounds like. Maybe aligned as a 5 tech, 4-eye maybe. Winning versus Keon Smith, wicked swim move. That's nice to hear. He has that, as I was saying, his linear athleticism is really good. So if he actually, uses his hand well, times things up, shows just more of a natural feel for the game. Like, he has potential there. Driscoll and Keon Smith open a lane, and Jeff Wilson has a good physical run for a nice game. I feel like Wilson's been mentioned a decent amount. He has a very good shot of being that RB4 on the roster. Jalen Wright mentioned has another shifty run in the perimeter with a buttery cut to daylight, picked up 12 or so. Love hearing that. I love hearing about his cuts because I feel like a lot of times people will talk about a lot of the Dolphins running backs as like the speed, but it's the combination of the ability to really get lateral and downfield. You got to be an all-around athlete. Guys that are more just straight line speed players rarely ever be like just good NFL players. Because there's a lot of guys who are just very fast that just never made in the NFL. It's a combination of these traits, and I think Wright has that. Jason Maitre had a pick against Mike White. Interesting. He was like one of the guys that I believe he wasn't one of the. He's a UDFA that wasn't initially signed as a UDFA. Like he had a fight during those like rookie camps to get like a roster spot. So I mean, shout out to him. Doubt he makes the team, but he got a pick during camp. Jordan Poyer, such a pro, always takes great angles, in great shape for a fundamentally sound tackle. That's kind of like what you're expecting out of Poyer at this point. Veteran presence, very smart player, and it's why I think the Bills' defense, big reason for them being able to shut down the Dolphins' offense more effective than most teams was how fundamentally sound and disciplined their safeties were, whether it was capping things on the back end or coming downhill and limiting those big plays. Tua steps around some pressure, moves to his left, fires a bullet to Tyreek, who did a great job coming back to the QB for the intermediate hookup, call it 15. Love hearing about Tua working around some pressure. As I've said, that's a big part of this upcoming season, being able to like build off that, with that weight loss and be able to create off script. Obviously, this is just training camp. He's not really, facing live action yet, so you take all this stuff with a grain of salt. But it's nice to see that it feels like he's being a little more active moving around. Weaver dials up an overload pressure and got a free run for Quentin Bell for a would-be sack. Interesting. Zeke Vandenberg, who was a UDFA last season, who got put on like the IR before the season started, so he was like a stash player. I've heard his name mentioned a lot. Like we'll see a video of him later with the Ramsey pick where he makes a play. Here, he got from his linebacker position to fit right, run, and tag it off on the backfield. Vandenberg played like edge in college. He's kind of a tweener type that can play like edge, linebacker. I wouldn't be surprised if Vandenberg is like a practice squad target for the team, because I feel like he's getting mentioned a lot throughout training camp, and they clearly wanted to stash him from last year to keep him around. This one's interesting. Chop splits a block from Paul, and the tight end forced the back to change tracks. The cavalry rise. You can see how his get off creates issues every day out there. So we've heard a lot about Chop Robinson and Patrick Paul, and mostly positives from both, and especially when they've had some like really good battles. That's nice to hear. Iron sharpen iron. Chop is already making an impact for a guy that I still think can even get better as a player. Like, still improvements. That's always nice to hear when immediate impact. And then Patrick Paul is looking better than I think expected, better than his college tape. Another player I'm excited to see early in the preseason. The Ramsey and which we can let me see actually. Yeah, there was the Jalen Ramsey and interception that he's talking about. We can just show it here. This was a play mainly off Skyler. Zeke Vandenberg cuts underneath. Obviously, we really can't see the full play, but Vandenberg is a real impact player, dropping off in coverage, which is interesting because he didn't do that much in college. He was more of a edge rushing type, but the slow-mo, Barrios gets the tip on it too, trying to save it, and then Ramsey goes up, comes down with it, right place, right time. But impressed with Vandenberg getting a lot of attention, I feel like, not even just today, but like kind of throughout the camps. I feel like I've heard his name at least mentioned for one kind of splash play every practice. And, that gives you a chance to, if you have a good training camp, that usually gives you a chance in the preseason to get some decent amount of playing time. And if you can make an impact in the preseason, that usually, at least gets you a chance somewhere, whether it's with that team or if you get waived, then usually you get claimed if you have a decent preseason. So good for him. Let's see. Oh, he said Waddle had another tough catch going to the ground. He was saying that like Waddle hasn't dropped a ball all camp. That's huge. Making a lot of tough grabs. Very, very important for Waddle. Obviously, that's kind of like I have huge expectations for Waddle. I already think he's a top 10 receiver in the league. And probably his biggest weakness is at the catch point. Wouldn't say he's bad at it, but like he will, occasionally jump at the catch point, be more of like a body catcher at times. So making tough catches, I think, is a huge part to add to his game. If he can do that just on a more consistent basis. Another mention of Deshaun Hand and Quentin Bell getting after it. I feel like these guys have gotten some mention, and they're kind of, fighting for spots. Specifically, Deshaun Hand has a decent chance of making that defensive tackle group because there's like multiple bodies there, and a lot after the top three. I don't think any of them are really guaranteed a spot, so it should be an interesting battle. And then Quentin Bell has gotten a lot of mention too. Another edge battle. The edge battle will be pretty interesting because, like, we've heard a lot about Zeke Vandenberg, Quentin Bell, and then Grayson Murphy, another UDFA, who I'm a huge fan of, got a lot of mention yesterday. He's had a great training camp. And then you already have, your rookies who have been really good. And you still have those players, like Phillips and Chubb coming back from injury. It's a group to feel pretty good about, whether they're on the squad or the practice squad. It's nice. Let's see. Mo Kamara mentioned, fires off the snap. Kamara fires off the snap, runs the arc, dips under the block of Smith, and gets in the sack of Mike White. Exceptional bend. Nice to see. So Kamara mentioned another edge defender. His athleticism was always really nice with the burst, the bend. Plays with good balance. Plays very high motor. Plays like his hair is on fire. So that's good. Engel gets a fantastic seal on an outside HM run. Go out to the numbers. Turned his man inside. Brewer got on space and wiped out a defender as well. The snaps. Okay, so the snap issues. Here we got to this tweet. So the snap issues have been were really bad today, apparently, and there was too many balls on the ground. Definitely something that they can improve upon. I wouldn't overreact to it yet because the Dolphins have and I know people are like saying like bring back Connor Williams. I mean, that's not going to change anything. Connor Williams didn't have, that was probably his biggest issue with snaps. But this is Brewer and Tua's like really, didn't have too many opportunities before these practices, to get this snap stuff going. So it's early in training camp. A lot of teams actually usually have these problems early in training camp. So too early to overreact yet, but yes, this is something they do need to work on. Hopefully they can build that chemistry and things can get better. Plus, I think it was more than just the starters too. It was the pretty much all around. Waddle gets a step with Campbell and Player and close, good clean pocket, but it's just too long. Looks like, oh yeah, I think I have that video saved somewhere as well. We'll take a look at this one. Okay, so this one, kind of tough to see. So it's going to Waddle right here, who's lined up on Kohu. Deep pass, just barely missed, slight overthrow. I think this is a combination of being both on Tua and Waddle, as you can see. Like, it's hard to break down this play from this angle, but as you can see, Waddle has a pretty tight alignment, but he's trying to attack outside leverage, but Kohu maintains it. So Waddle has to take that inside leverage release and then tries to stack him back to the outside. And I think with this safety in the middle of the field, Tua tried to throw it more off that outside shoulder. So I think it was just a slight miscommunication, something that, it can happen early in camp. It's fine. Dolphins usually complete a lot of their deep passes, so I don't think this is a major issue. But just something to point out that it looks like it's Tua put it out more to the outside for a reason. Waddle probably drifted a little too far to the inside, and then he kind of stumbled a little bit when he had to track back to the outside. So a little bit on both of them that they can work upon and get better. Let's see. Hold on. Okay. Oh, and Ethan Bonner comes screaming off the edge, dips onto the block of Austin Jackson, would be a hit on the QB. Ethan Bonner getting a big old helmet solo. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they're wearing the, what's it called? The protective headgear at practices on top of the helmets. And then, yeah, so Ethan Bonner, another player that I wanted to mention because he had a nice play, apparently dipping underneath the block, getting to the backfield. He was interviewed saying that they were like playing more zone. He feels more comfortable. And then Jalen Waddle said in an interview, this is what he said. Ethan Bonner has had the craziest jump from any player from last year. More patient at the line, using his long arms. He can stay hip to hip with anyone. He's confident. He's playing great ball. He really is top 3 fastest on the team. And that's what Waddle was saying. So high praise from a teammate. Bonner's a guy that I see making the 53 personally. And he has a good shot right now because Cam Smith just unfortunately was injured yesterday, which sucks. So, but this is kind of like Bonner's time to shine. Like, I know some of the other corners are like Kendall Fuller is still getting like maintenance days. So Bonner has his chance to really shine out there, and it looks like he's taken decent advantage of it. and like he apparently got to go after the QB today. That kind of shows me that he has that versatility I've talked about to play like as like a interior nickel safety snaps. I really feel like he can do it all. He's also a good special teams player. I feel like that gives him a good shot to make the 53. Big fan of Bonner and what he brings, so like seeing that stuff. Definitely a guy to keep an eye on during preseason because he's on that like roster bubble edge, but also is one of those guys. He's one of the few guys that's on like the roster bubble, like that you could see possibly not making it, but also if he makes it, I could see him getting some playing time throughout the season. Apparently Skyler dropped it down to Tyreek, 60-yard touchdown. Nice to see that. He said great tracking / acceleration from Cheetah. Always good stuff. Tyndall mentioned, haven't seen too much of Tyndall mentioned, but Tyndall sees it and fits a Jalen Wright run for stuff at the line of scrimmage. I feel like that's kind of the first time I feel like I've seen that mentioned, but always positive, but you still need to see a lot more. He has he's not guaranteed to make the roster either. I do think this scheme is a better fit for his skill set, so that's a good sign for him, but just things to, notice, talk about with these players. Tyndall, definitely one to watch the preseason. We'll be watching a lot of like the roster bubble guys and then like obviously the rookies because it will be like their first time in real live action. First NFL players. Let's see. And then I think then there was just some interviews stuff that they were talking about. I know like David Long talked about Anthony Walker and then like the rest, Anthony Walker bringing in a good like leadership, being the veteran out there. And then just building chemistry as a unit because they were hanging out more off the team. Durham Smythe had an interesting quote because I feel like he said he believes Julian Hill might be the most physical tight end in the NFL. Did I spell the title wrong? I misspelled practice, huh? Classic. And me. Oh god, I got flashbanged. Okay. So now that you're saying that? Oh yeah, forgot the T. Nice. Good one, Ryder. See if I can fix it live. It allows me to. Oh, I didn't even like underline it red, when you misspell something. Okay, it's done. No, thanks, Operation. Katana. But yeah, he said the tight end battle, man, is super interesting. It's one of the ones that I feel like, honestly, it might be the most intriguing to me at this point because like the wide receiver battle is gonna be interesting, but then with Taj Washington being like an IR stash, it becomes less interesting. It basically becomes just like one fighting spot. The guard starting spot is interesting. The D tackle spot is interesting because there's a lot of bodies there. But the tight end one is interesting too because I feel like all of them have pretty much shined at some point throughout training camp. They've gotten a lot of praise. And then you have like I'm super excited about Johnny Smith. I feel like he's going to get a lot of work as your receiving guy. You know what to expect out of Durham Smythe, but everyone else, like Julian Hill, he's the most physical tight end on the team. Durham Smythe said he believes he's the most physical tight end in the NFL, and he does play very, very physical, and which is weird because he was more of a receiving tight end in college at Campbell. So we'll see if he can unlock that part of his game. And then you have Jody Fortson, who's like a field stretching, super long, can even play as like an X receiver, make plays at the catch point, very good in the red zone, be like a move tight end type. And then you have Tanner Conner, who's in that same vein, former receiver. Everyone's really talked about him this offseason about how he's developed, really become more of a tight end. And then like he's been his best looking tight end. And then last year he was getting work at fullback. He can play fullback, tight end, move tight end. And then we'll get to see if he can be used more as a receiver. We don't know if he makes the roster. Because I really feel like they might keep 4 tight ends this year with this tight end room instead of 3 like they usually do. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. And then maybe Connor is the odd one out, but I feel like you can get Tanner Connor on the practice squad, so I wouldn't be surprised if you still see all these tight ends around, whether they're on the main roster and the practice squad, and then they get elevated based on injuries or things like that. But yeah. Yeah, those were all the posts, I believe, from Wingfield I wanted to talk about. Let's see. Here's another video from the practice. I'm just showing some of the random videos. It's obviously very tough to see. We get to see Tua on the move, escaping the pocket, delivering over the middle to Tyreek Hill. Some basic stuff. It's just nice to see some football. Nothing too crazy. And even though it's very like, behind the team of players. It's pretty funny. Cam Smith or Storm Duck should take Nikki off the team. Well, I think Cam Smith, even though he's had the injuries right now, I feel like he's pretty locked to make the team. He's a second round pick from last year. I'd be surprised if he didn't. So he's already expecting to be there. So it would have to be like a Storm Duck or let me look at the rest of the corner room. Ethan Bonner obviously would still. I think Ethan Bonner is a threat to that too, because I think Bonner probably makes it. There's a world where they keep Bonner, Needham, Cam Smith obviously. And then there's players like Siren Neal, who's like a special teams guy that I think has a good chance of making the roster. The DB room's pretty interesting, but I feel like it's kind of locked with the players. But I do think Storm Duck would be, out of the UDFA, Storm Duck is the one I think with the best chance to maybe knock someone off like that. I just don't know if it's going to happen. I just want to win a damn playoff game. I agree, but we're far away. We got to build up to it. To get there, which the whole season's exciting. I just want to have a good end of the season. Here's a nice play. Looks like a better angle here from the practice. Obviously, a little bit blurry, but always some good stuff. I love when they do this in the pocket. I love this is something the Dolphins do, I think, more than most teams. Is this they motion over and then just look at Tua's movement. He opens up initially to the right, like he's a righty. They do this a lot with their footwork. He's really good with his footwork, then resetting. Looks like he's ready to deliver the ball, but holds on to it for a second. Waits for this, I think, second level to defender to clear out a little bit, then waits, then finds the open zone. So good patience there. I feel like, it's always good signs of this stuff, because sometimes Tua can be a little trigger happy and will strike things in, but nice to see him showing a little bit of patience. And then puts it on the backside of Craig Kraft to protect him from taking a big hit from Jordan Brooks, which obviously he's not going to get hit, but that's the placement you want in that type of ball with the linebacker in the middle of the field. So this is a pretty good play. But obviously, at the end of the day, this is just practice, and this is the stuff Tua's always been pretty good at, but it's just nice to see some football. Yeah, lots of praise for Jalen Waddle today that I saw from multiple different people. I also saw a tweet from Marcel. Emmanuel Ogbah has turned back the clock. He's looking like the 2020/2021 version that had 18 sacks in 2 seasons. That would be huge, because apparently this is the most fresh, athletic Ogbah's looked in some time. I feel like it's been positive ever since he's come back from practice, and that's a big time thing, because obviously with Barrett retiring and your other edges, that your starters with Phillips and Chubb, they're on injuries, and then your other guys who are going to make an impact are rookies. And sometimes it takes the rookies a little while to adjust, learn the playbook. You probably don't want them playing crazy amount. They're going to play snaps, but you maybe don't want them playing crazy snaps. So Ogbah being ready is such a big part, and playing high-level football is such a big part for the start of the season. What's up, Zim? How you doing? Yeah. I'll show this video again, because why not? This is the play where Vandenberg tips it up and Ramsey comes down with the pick. The Dolphins Twitter account posted this one. Definitely give me some fun battles. Some guys showing out. That edge position is interesting, because all the guys that I was didn't really think had really a chance of making the roster, a lot of them have been shown. I feel like every single one, even Vandenberg, and Vandenberg is more of a tweener. He could play edge and off ball. Then Quinn Bell's gotten a lot of praise. Grayson Murphy, we talked about. And then you have guys coming in like Ogbah. The other rookies that are guaranteed to make the roster, like Chop and Kamara, have also gotten good praise. So it just seems like the entire edge room is clicking right now. So that's a good thing. Good fights. I expect a lot of those guys that I named earlier, like the Vandenbergs, the Quinn Bells, the Grayson Murphy. I think maybe one of them could get a roster spot, just with the injuries to Chubb and Phillips. But you could see those guys sticking around on the practice squad, which would be nice. Not all of them, but some of them. Yeah, Kyle Krause grinding the tape was talking about some of the snap issues. He's not worried either. It's a little too early, I think, to be worried, into camp. But if it stays a problem, then that's when you start to worry a little bit. I also like seeing that Weaver dialed up some pressure to get a free runner today. Obviously, you're not showing too much at public training camp practices, but always a good sign when your defensive coordinator can really just dial up some simulated pressure. Yep, Bell and Zeke are impressive from what it feels like. I feel like their names have been mentioned a lot. Same with like Grayson Murphy was mentioned a lot yesterday. Had like multiple sacks. Let's see if there's anyone else in that room. I'm gonna have the depth chart pulled up. Because Ogba, Chop, Kamara. I don't think Cameron Good's practicing. Yeah, he's on the pup too. So maybe I don't think Good might start on the PUP, and then maybe he comes back around. Even someone like Cam Brown, who I think is playing like he's an off-ball guy, but he can play as like a Sam type role. He's even gotten some good mention, especially versus the run. And he's kind of a guy who's on like the edge of that roster, but he's a special teams guy, has a chance. Then you have your guys like Quentin Bell, Zeke Vandenberg, Grayson Murphy, who are on the back end of the roster, who are making a good impact. So definitely keep an eye on those guys throughout the preseason, because that's where you like kind of separate yourself. Preseason is huge, because if you have a good preseason, then teams are less likely to risk waiving you, because then if they want to keep you around, you're more likely to get claimed with a good preseason, because that's when other teams get eyes on you. But yeah, that's pretty much. I think that was all the tweets. I went through them all. Any questions? Maybe people who weren't here missed some stuff they wanted to talk about, or before we roll things away. I think I showed all the videos I had saved too. Like I talked about the Tua and Waddle slight disconnect, broke that one down. I think Waddle drifted a little too far inside and just didn't he took an inside release and wasn't able to get back on track outside. And then Tua saw the middle field safety and tried to put it more to the outside shoulder, and it was just a slight miscommunication. Never heard of this Murphy before. Who is he? Oh, Grayson Murphy. I made a video on him, UDFA, from UCLA, edge defender. There's like the Murphy twins, Gabriel Murphy, Grayson Murphy. I believe Grayson led college football in all pressures last year. It was either last year or just like since he's been in college football, like he had the most pressures in entire college football. He's a very good edge guy, very athletic, and pretty like good with his hands and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see his impact, because I think he has a chance of making the roster. Rookie UDFA. I think out of the UDFAs, I think he has the best chance. But we shall see. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, so I think that's what we're gonna end it today. I'll have a film breakdown out tomorrow, and then we'll keep doing these streams. Maybe not every practice, but for most of the practices, we'll get on stream, talk about what we're seeing, who's maybe getting bumped up, who's kind of maybe get disappointing a little bit. We haven't heard about. They would have to shine in preseason to get a chance. I think that was the first UDFA one I broke. I think it's the one that definitely got the most views out of the UDFA film breakdowns this season. I'm a big fan though. That was definitely my favorite UDFA. So yeah, check that one out. Okay, thank you guys for